Rolling. Madam Mayor,
Are we ready?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Do I have the right page? The mic is on. Gentlemen, are we ready? Ladies, are we ready?
The gavel, there will be.
Good evening and welcome. The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, October 10th, will be called to order at 7:02. At this time, I will give the invocation sent to me by our mayor. It is a poem by Winfred May, a UK-based poet and lyricist who wrote under the pen name Patience Strong. If you stand very still in the heart of a wood, you will hear many wonderful things. The snap of a twig, and the wind in the trees, and the whir of invisible wings. If you stand very still in the turmoil of life, and you wait for the voice from within, you'll be led down the quiet ways of wisdom and peace in a mad world of chaos and din. If you stand very still and you hold to your faith, you will get all the help that you ask. You will draw from the silence the things that you need, hope and courage and strength for your task. If you will all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Acting Mayor Finlayson.
Present.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Present.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Present.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Here.
Alderman Shandell Meyer.
Present.
Alderman Gay. Alderman Savage.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
Alderman Schandemeyer.
Would it be possible to postpone 0922
Okay. Is that the only
to
amendment?
the next meeting?
To the next meeting. Alderwoman Tierney.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I asked for a postponement of bear with me, 47-22 and for 60 days.
For 60 days?
Yes, ma'am.
And I think there is another postponement,
Technical. It's a technical AP 65.
a technical postponement of the appointment of Jacob Lip to the Recreation Advisory Board until Monday, May 24th. Is there a second for all of the amendments?
Second.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Acting Mayor Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shandell Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with an update from the mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I begin tonight with some solemn news from the Annapolis Police Chief, Ed Jackson, who has reported that one of our retired APD officers, Mike Reed, passed away last week. On behalf of the entire council and Mayor Buckley, I would like to extend my sincere sympathies to Officer Reed's family. This sad news comes to us at the one-year anniversary of the passing of Lieutenant Brian Della. We all know how painful these losses are, not only for immediate families, but also for our APD and City of Annapolis family. Please know that we mourn these losses with you. I would now like for us to take a moment of silence to honor Officer Mike Reed and Brian Della. Thank you. Tomorrow night, here in Council Chambers, the Caucus of African American Leaders will host the United States Department of Justice to talk about hate crimes. Guests will include U.S. Attorney Eric Barron, County Executive Stuart Pittman, and others. This justice-focused event follows the momentous hearing of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission held here at the Council Chambers last Saturday. The testimony presented shed significant light on the violent hate crimes committed in our county over the last 200 years. I encourage all of you to watch the video of the hearing, which you can find on the Commission's website and YouTube pages. Just Google Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Last weekend, the Powerboat Show was held at City Dock, and we now look forward to part 2, the Sailboat Show, starting on Thursday. I must offer thanks to Mother Nature for the weather we just had over the weekend. Let's keep that up. The boat show has needed a break between flooding and pandemics. In the past few years, we've had it tough, but this year we were able to deliver some beautiful fall days. I'd like to acknowledge the hundreds of mayors and city council members from around the state who were here for the Maryland Municipal League's Fall Conference. Welcome to Annapolis. This week, the United States Naval Academy and the U.S. Navy celebrate Founders Day. We'll have a brief ceremony on Main Street, right outside Zachary's Jewelers, at 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday. There'll be cupcakes. On Friday, we are delighted to welcome gubernatorial candidate Wes Moore and Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Melnick and many community leaders who will be participating in our Latino Social Justice Virtual Forum, organized by the Office of Community Services. At this meeting, we will hear about legislative priorities for the upcoming Maryland General Assembly and talk about the needs of the community. The idea for this forum came from conversations during the pandemic about equitable approaches to public policy, especially in the issue areas of healthcare access and equity. The event is free, but requires pre-registration. Visit the city website and use the keywords Latino Social Justice to get the meeting credentials. I'd also like to remind everyone of 2 fun events later in the month. First is our Haunted Hilltop event on October 23rd at Pitt Moyer Recreation Center. This event is held in partnership with writer and producer Rodney Barnes. There will be fun for all ages with costume contest, a dance party, food, a selfie museum, and more. It's free, so just show up 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday the 23rd with the costume parade between 4 and 5 p.m. The other event is our annual Day of the Dead Festival on the front lawn of Maryland Hall. That's on Saturday, October 29th, from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. There will be skull candy, face painting, dancers, and you can get photographed in your Day of the Dead outfit. Fun for all ages. I will be there, and I hope you will too. Thank you, and now let's get on with our meeting.
You give the best short mayor's updates.
Mr. City Attorney, would you present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item is reports by committees.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Thank you. As chairman of the Transportation Committee, we had a meeting on September 14th. We talked about merging bus systems and a new Ridgely Avenue sidewalk report. We have canceled the October meeting scheduled for October 12th, and our next meeting is Wednesday, November 9th at 4 p.m. here in council chambers.
Thank you. Alderwoman Tierney?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Finance Committee met on October 5th. We reviewed two pieces of legislation, the O25-22, the prevailing wage, and we did not give that a favorable recommendation. We postponed action on R54-22, which is the non-maritime use fee on waterfront property, because we did not have people there to explain the basis for the fee. And we did approve the supplemental appropriations that you see on the agenda tonight, SA 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And we received an update from the finance director. The next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 19th at 10:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few highlights from our September 22nd Environmental Matters Committee meeting. First of all, we got a report from Public Works regarding our stormwater program, and a lot of good news, really. The big piece of big good news is that the city is well on track to exceed our pollution reduction targets that come from MDE, Maryland Department of the Environment, and that's really in large thanks to some restoration projects that we've been working on hard in the city over the past few years, and so really looking forward to seeing how much we can exceed. Hopefully, I think we'll probably be one of the few municipalities that have actually, or jurisdictions, I should say, that actually exceed the targets. Also, good news is we have our stormwater program is now fully staffed, so we have a new stormwater manager who's Betsy McCowan, and then she is managing 2 stormwater engineers and 2 environmental compliance inspectors. And so thanks also to our director, David Gerald, for getting that fully staffed and running. So, and the other thing, we did give a favorable recommendation to R3222, which is the Chesapeake Bay Trust fee waiver, which I'll get into more when that legislation comes up later tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled for this Thursday at 3 p.m. Thank you.
Alderwoman Pendel Charles?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our last Public Safety Standing Committee meeting was held on September 28th. At that time, we took up O3822, vehicles in traffic, stopping, standing, and parking spaces reserved. After a very robust discussion, and to seek other options, we postponed that legislation until our next meeting on Thursday, October 27th at 4 p.m. here in council chambers. Also, as you all know, I have not given any update on Annapolis United in probably the last 5 or 6 meetings, so at this time, I'm going to give an update to everyone. Annapolis United delivering positive direction for youth. Often in Annapolis, after a shooting and other unfortunate episode of juvenile crime, parents and the public ask, what is the city doing to stem the tide of violence? It is a reasonable question and one that we are at the Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department are prepared to answer. Under unique cross-departmental collaboration known as Annapolis United, city agencies are coming together to provide meaningful diversions for young people. Under the initiative, youth recreation programs are developed and provided by Annapolis Recreation and Parks. These programs may run on a daily, weekly, monthly, and/or year-round basis. We'd like to thank Mayor Gavin Buckley for prioritizing young people and coordinating the early work of Annapolis United. We also must thank the entire City Council for funding the initiative, $185,000 approved as part of the city's fiscal 2023 budget. Even before our funding came into place July 1st, the Annapolis Recreation and Parks team and other department leaders in the city worked together on program ideas so that we could hit the ground running. We'd like to thank City Manager Mike Malinoff, the Office of Emergency Management, the Annapolis Police Department, and Annapolis Fire Departments for the collaborative spirit that has been the hallmark of the enterprise. As leaders of Rec and Parks, they modeled their work after Robert K. Greenleaf's servant leadership style, which begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve first. Then the conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. Mr. Greenleaf wrote, "This is a sharply different from one that is a leader first, perhaps because of the need to assuage an unusual power drive or to acquire material possessions. The leader first and servant first are two extreme types. Between them, there are shadings and blends that are part of the infinite variety of human nature." During the 40-plus years of recreation supervision, management, and administrative expertise and experience by Director Trader, he has always been a servant leader first. This has been critical in mapping out the work of Annapolis United. When we come together to serve our community, we can then make a difference through leadership. Under the umbrella of Annapolis United, we serve our youngest residents by building relationships inside of government as well as outside, including with the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis, Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and other civic leaders and service organizations. Annapolis Rec and Park serves residents, including youth, by ensuring that the Pitt Recreation Center is open for drop-in leisure activities, including open gym, weightlifting, and cardiovascular exercise. In addition to the comprehensive fitness center, a beautiful indoor track is also available, plus basketball courts, a municipal pool, and miles of nearby trails. Their dynamic Reach Teen after-school program is located in the Annapolis Walk Community Building, while the Stanton Center provides daily after-school programs and open gym opportunities. With these amenities, the funding in place, and a collaboration across departments and agencies, they're delivering for young people who might not traditionally participate due to affordability, parent and caregiver schedules, or other reasons. Annapolis United reaches into the community to galvanize youth who do not have a pathway to productive recreational outlets. The Rec and Parks is pleased to say that what they are doing with Annapolis United is working. Since their July 1st launch, they have helped over 400 Annapolis residents and youth experience educational and environmental field trips, water access opportunities, including trips to Assateague Island and Patriot Point, the Kenneth R. Bull Municipal Pool, Family Fun Day, professional sporting events, sailing and boating lessons, golf and boxing, art, summer basketball league, and other educational and enrichment activities. Annapolis United is an extension of our rich contemporary history as a city. We continue to strive toward One Annapolis. This was written by Director Trader, who's the director of Annapolis Recreation and Parks, and was in the Annapolis Capitol on Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Thank you all so much for all of your support.
Thank you. Alderman Schnellmeyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Economic Matters Committee met on September 21st. We had no legislation, but we got a brief update from Eric Evans of the Downtown Partnership and a general update from Stephen Rice. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 19th at 6:30.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. The Housing and Human Welfare Committee last met September the 29th, I believe. We'll meet again September the 22nd. Yeah, okay. We'll meet again October the 17th at 6:30. We'll have testimony from the CEOs of both Enterprise and Admiral Oaks, following up on the issues that we have with public testimony. And I'm working as well to try to get Terminix here, who's handling some of the rodent issues that we're having in the city. And so that's our plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, 4022 as well, the workforce housing legislation was sent to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. I'll give the report for Rules in City Government. The meeting was held on October 7th, 2022. We addressed several pieces of legislation. CA 222, the Board of Supervisors of Election, that legislation was postponed until November 4th. The off-street parking requirements in 0922, postponed until November the 4th. And 025, Revenue and Finance, postponed until 11/4. The next meeting of the Rules and City Government will be held on Friday, November 5th at 1 o'clock here in Council Chambers. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Audit Committee will meet virtually Monday, a week from now, the 17th of October at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney?
Madam Mayor, I have a question, please.
Oh, Alderwoman Pendleton.
Thank you. Alderman Gay, just want to make sure that residents will be allowed to testify on October 17th. Is that correct?
I'm not planning on having public testimony, but that could change at any time in between them, but it's not planned right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
During comments from the general public, the public may not speak on items scheduled for public hearing this evening. When providing testimony, you will only be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. There's one item this evening on public hearing. It's Resolution R 5622, City Dock Holiday Market and Itinerant Merchant Sales in the Historic District. I have a list of 4 people. The first is Amanda Fegley, I'm sorry. Would you please provide your name and your address? Is it on?
Thank you. My name is Amanda Hurt Fegley. I live on Prince George Street. As a resident of Ward 1 for the past 38 years and as a former board member of the Ward 1 Residents Association for 13 years, I've experienced downtown parking firsthand for a long time. Current changes to parking downtown have been apparently precipitated by major construction at Hillman Garage. The introduction of another new parking entity, premium parking, to handle portions of downtown residential neighborhoods has resulted in the introduction of app parking with newly instituted restrictions and fees, new signs in various places that are not clearly delineated or defined, a lack of understanding of the implementation of the above changes, malfunction of the app, and inadequate enforcement due to a lack of information and coordination among the stakeholders, i.e., the residents, local businesses, city management, Annapolis Police, visitors, SP Plus, and Premium Parking, who is based in New Orleans. It is clear that Premium Parking is underprepared. They do not have a solid understanding of Annapolis, its rules, its parking codes, its residents. Further, there is no point of contact other than a call center in New Orleans or a contact us page on the Premium Parking website, which auto-generates a message indicating a 1 to 2 day response delay. The New Orleans operator representative had no idea what the parking fees are and told me that Premium, quote, has nothing to do with Park Mobile and Park Mobile sets their own fees, unquote. Stakeholders need to know where they can park legally, for how long, and the consequences for not following the guidelines. We need to know how resident parking permits are vetted and distributed, how guest passes are obtained, etc. These parameters should be clear and concise and consistent and available to the public at all times. They are not. There have been several serious mistakes made which have inspired an enormous amount of anger, distrust, disgust, and confusion. The rollout and transition has been embarrassingly unprofessional. The lack of communication with the neighborhoods directly affected has been astonishing. Further, moves to precipitously change the designation of the parking districts without any public discussion have infuriated many, and erroneously ticketing residents with legitimate parking permits speaks to the lack of management, knowledge, and competence, regardless of whose authority initiated that action. In conclusion, substantial and swift action is needed to fix the parking situation, and all interested parties need to be informed in order to comply and work together. Enforcement and cooperation, along with ease of operation, are needed desperately. At this point, it is unclear who, in fact, is in charge of any of it. The lack of leadership and direction and communication has led to unnecessary disturbance in the fabric of our precious downtown neighborhoods. It's time for significant change and improvement. Thank you.
Perfect timing, too. Thank you. Mr. Melanoff, may I ask you, I think I saw you taking some notes. I'm not asking you to respond right now, but to put that on your list, to-do list.
We actually responded to the speaker this weekend with some responses and are aware.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Thank you. I don't want to overstep my boundaries. I'm not the chair of Transportation Committee, but if we could have a work session or maybe just have representatives from premium parking before the council, that would be helpful. I completely agree with everything she just said. They leave a little red placard on your car. You're supposed to call them. They don't answer. You send them an email that says, like she said, 2 to 4 days. And I still haven't heard anything. So it would be helpful to have some direction. Thank you.
I'm asking the city manager to look into how information can get not only to us, but to the community. So thank you. Our next speaker, Mr. Wesley Farrell. And while he's coming, the next speaker will be Stacy Mednick and then Thomas Hogan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Wes Farrell. I'm a resident of Upper Prince George Street in Ward 1, and I'd like to speak a little bit more about the process in which these changes have been made. As you've heard by now, a decision was recently made to change parking regulations in downtown Annapolis to make College Avenue a commercial area not available to residents. There was no public hearing on this matter in violation of city code. Residents were not alerted through any official channels, also in violation of city code. Instead, we heard about it by word of mouth. Then we looked closely at the signs on College Avenue and also Prince George Street near Maryland Avenue, and the language District 1 permit holders allowed all times was no longer printed on signs. On October 6th, we woke up to warnings and citations on our cars, as you just saw. But no one from the city ever reached out to us. Efforts to learn more have been painful and have left us more confused than when we started. And the signs on these streets still do not reflect what we are told the current regulations are. It boggles the mind how anyone can find the actions of the city here acceptable. Some people were given a say in this matter, however. The mayor and others from the city spoke with Maryland Avenue business owners in a meeting at Galway Bay on September 27th, where we are told the decision was made to change these parking regulations. If we, the residents, had been asked our thoughts, we would have let the city know why this decision to abolish so much residential parking is a terrible idea. For instance, I have a 20-month-old son and a daughter on the way. How would I get them to my car every morning and night when neither can walk unattended with their bags and mine? How can anyone in the city find it reasonable that my 6-month pregnant wife would have to walk maybe up to a mile alone in the dark to get home from work every night from her car? Did no one realize that such a policy would tank property values, as no one would want to buy a house with nowhere to park near it? I could go on, but I think you get the point. I moved here 4 years ago. I wanted to start my family in this wonderful community. I'm close to my work at the Naval Academy. I live in a wonderful neighborhood with diverse residents, from Johnnies to retirees. I enjoy the historic charm, and I pay my fair share to maintain it. I'm around the corner from some of my favorite local businesses. But I wonder if the mayor and the city feel the same way about me. Given these recent actions, I will close with some questions to that end. What is the vision of this mayor and the council for downtown Annapolis? Is it to be a robust, diverse community with residents and businesses supporting one another? Or is the goal to pit residents and businesses against each other, as you have done in this episode? Is the goal to have a city hospitable to full-time residents, or do you wish to push us out to make room for more Airbnbs and yet another discount t-shirt shop? Unfortunately, recent actions and the mayor's complete disregard for due process lead me to believe that he and you want the latter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stacy Mednick, and I'm at 232 Prince George Street. I want to talk about what we deal with to live in downtown Annapolis. First, my family and I have lived in our downtown home on Upper Prince George Street for 19 years. We have put countless dollars into our house, including renovations keeping with historic regulations, and installing a mandated copper roof to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars that only helicopters can see. All of this to preserve the historic fabric that is so important to us in the city. Second, the city won't take down the enormous sidewalk engulfing tree that is in front of our house. For 19 years, we've had Ari Robertson roto-rooter the roots out of the pipes next to our house 3 times a year to avoid sewer and other water backup. Today, it's gotten even worse and the roots are out of control. The tree is in our foundation and has enveloped part of our external stairs. It is a serious pedestrian hazard and killed our property value. I gave up pleading with the city about this in 2018. We just deal with it. More recently, the city revoked the 2-hour free parking on our street and on College Avenue. Now, my elderly parents have stopped dropping by because the app confuses them and makes it too difficult to manage. My children's teenage friends with cars cannot just drop by for a little bit without dealing with a new parking system. I certainly no longer feel comfortable in fighting family and friends over. This summer, we hosted a small college reunion, and despite buying visitor parking passes on the new system, our friends got 2 tickets. I appealed, but was denied, and before I was notified of the denial, they were given 2 late fees on each ticket and the notification that their car would not be re-registered in Maryland without paying the fine, which was already paid by me to the tune of $150. Have I complained about this? No. But now, showing that the city really doesn't care about residents by trying to eliminate College Ave from our parking rights, this would kick us out. We currently park on College about half the time because spaces on Prince George are full. We would no longer be able to balance what we love about living downtown, and we do love living downtown and have raised our children here, with the true hassle of not parking by our house. I come and go all day long, and this would be unbearable. Let me say one more thing. I am a business person. I own 34 stores up and down the Northeast. I know an awful lot about business locations, and in making sure that the business's products and services are relevant to its location. Not all Maryland Avenue businesses make sense on Maryland Avenue. Some are empty, while others are buzzy with people. This is the Darwinian nature of business in this country. The new restaurant at the top of Main Street is near no fantastic parking options, but they are packed with customers. If somebody wants to visit an establishment, they will find a way. In sum, it feels like the city is devaluing residents and blindly supporting businesses. We residents pour money and love into our homes, frequent the local businesses, and bring visitors into town. The new parking decisions obliterate our goodwill. And I don't know who you think will agree to keep up these beautiful homes while also not being taken care of by the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas Hogan.
Hi, good evening. My name is Thomas Hogan, and I've got another parking related issue, but
Could you give us your address, please?
my address is 845 Coachway in Annapolis, and I'm a lifelong resident. My issue is with my restaurant, Main and Market. I'm outside the city, and I've seen most of your faces there eating at my restaurant every once in a while. But my issue is my outdoor dining, and I'm asking the council respectfully, as you're working through 0922 and 4922, that there's 5 of us outside the historic district that are on private property, and our permits for outside are going to expire in 2 weeks. And respectfully, I did email Alderman Savage this morning. I'm sorry if you replied, Alderman, and I may have missed it, and he's been extremely helpful. But I wanted the council to know that the five of us did an extensive study that's been submitted to planning and zoning. Pretty much everyone wants it to stay up, but our permit is going to expire in 2 weeks. So perhaps it could be extended or something added into either one of these two ordinances that may help us keep it up, maybe even permanently or for an extended time past the next 2 weeks. Some sort of reasonable resolution. That's all I had, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there a question, Alderman Arnett?
Not of the gentleman, but of the issue. I think our 2222 runs out the end of the month. Question to the city attorney, is that something where we can do an amendment to extend the period of time to carry people of outdoor dining out longer? Is that something that what we need to do, amend the resolution and suspend the rules at the next meeting? Because I've heard a couple of other restaurants bring up this same issue.
You can't extend, you have to suspend the rules.
Okay.
You're butting up against an issue with the code. Because the code.
It is a kind of an odd situation because there's five of us on private property that are kind of hanging out there on our own. So I was hoping as you work through these, maybe give us some more time or let us re-up. We did pay for a very expensive survey and analysis of how that's working. And I'm currently using 3 spots on my private lot, but it's about to expire in 2 weeks. And I'd like to keep it. Well, today we were full. Everyone enjoyed it, and I can't find one person that would like for me to take it down.
So I think,
go on, Alderman. We're listening. I'll work with your alderman.
Okay.
Alderman Savage?
Rob's very helpful, so I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, I look forward to setting up a meeting so we can chat more about this. I guess my question for the city manager would be, is I'm not sure if you're referring to a specific permit or if this is a deadline that was set by the resolution that we passed. I'm just trying to get clarity on that so we know because I think we all agree that we want to make sure people can continue to do outdoor dining. And so I just want to know what we need to do as far as, is it that resolution or is this a specific permit to them that the director might be able to extend? I don't.
The council needs to determine, right now, outdoor dining is not legal, except to the extent that the council has made it so because you've got a bill coming and you've asked for a study to be done. The study is done, the bills are ready, and at some point, you don't really have codified support to have outdoor dining. If you pass the bills, then you have it, but right now you don't. The reason that we even allowed it up to this point is because the emergency came, the emergency ended, you needed a study because you wanted to change the code and it's allowed. So I think you're okay to extend, but just be careful that you want to, extending without changing the code is you're gonna run into issues, I think, legally.
Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. So would tonight's meeting be the appropriate forum to extend if we could all agree to suspend? And
I don't know if R22 is.
They said if it expires in 2 weeks.
You can't do it now because you voted on an agenda, and the agenda doesn't include that.
Okay.
So possibly next council meeting.
Awesome. Thank
you. City Manager Malinoff, you had your hand up, I thought, for a moment.
No, I was actually concurring with the city attorney, and Mr. Rice is actually in the back, I believe, and I'm sure he's taking note. And it makes sense what's being said in terms of being able to extend it, but doing that, might I say, modestly, because we have everything about ready to be queued up.
So we'll have an opportunity before the next council meeting to figure out how to do this.
Okay, and thank you for your help. But I won't be able to stay afterwards. I worked that whole boat show and I'm exhausted, so I'm gonna go home. I'm tired. But thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Tierney?
Thank you very much. I know this is out of order, but I think I have about a half a dozen residents that were here tonight to testify, and I don't believe they got a sufficient response from the city for a path forward. Moving ahead, with due respect, City Manager Malinoff, is there anything that we can tell them?
Well, we did meet with your constituents the other evening, and there were a number of things that we discussed at that time. And then later this afternoon, we met internally to go over a few items. I think what we're looking at, if you don't mind, and this is not quite ready for prime time, but I figure it would give them an idea of that we have heard, is, and I'm borrowing Marcus from Mr. Moore's notes from our meeting. It was noted at the meeting that right now the Gott's Garage is not being fully utilized, maybe half full, and perhaps even Cecil Knighton. So we're looking at some sort of shop and park option for the businesses to address their parking concerns, which kind of led to this. We haven't cured what we're going to do yet, but it may be, I don't know, something to the effect that an hour or two for free, and then after that. Then we're looking at that valid residential permit holders in the areas that you were speaking of will be not impacted in any way, and by that we mean not ticketed. So any of the previous issues that came up that limited your parking will vanish. You will be able to park there as you were before. Commercial parking we're looking at on College Avenue, and we're just trying to figure out the hours for that. But again, it won't impact your use of it as a resident at all. There are concrete pads that are being poured this week for the multi-space parking meters and will be installed soon thereafter. I think the issue was that the weather last week did not allow that to proceed. But so that will be happening this week. And Premium Parking has hired an additional staff to monitor parking in districts 1 and 2. And we should be noticing an increase in their monitoring shortly. And the technology that Premium Parking uses to issue guest passes requires the resident to provide the license plate on the guest vehicle. We're exploring additional avenues where this process can be expedited. We're very aware that there's a lot of moving parts here and are very sorry for whatever transpired that made your life inconvenient and difficult. We're very aware and took some steps to hopefully resolve that. What I will say, unfortunately, what's compounded it is there's other construction projects going on beyond our Hillman garage, and everything has turned out to make parking, not to use the word too much, but premium. And we're hoping to address those operational concerns as well. So the issues that you had should no longer be a concern. And in fact, hopefully the businesses will be made whole by the opportunity to use our parking garages when we're able to finalize this program. So that's it in sum, and that's what we met on as staff this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Malinoff, I hope that part of your deliberations will include how to communicate to the residents so that they are aware in advance when changes are taking place and specifically actions that impact.
Absolutely. I'm very mindful of it. And I don't think there was, I was telling somebody in my career here over the years, if there's one thing that we sometimes do poorly is we overreact and we go to one side of the ship and then to the other, and then it tips over, and then we're having to pick up the pieces. And I think in this way, when Maryland Avenue had its issues, I don't think anyone was trying to create any additional problems. They were just trying to respond to the concerns of those business people. And we're aware, and I think in meeting with the Ward 1 Association, and I know Alderwoman Turney's setting up monthly meetings with me and the president of the association, and there'll be other means to communicate. But I think the lesson is learned and won't happen again.
I'm not sure whether you said it, but is there an opportunity for the businesses and the residents to get together so that they can hear and understand one another's perspectives? We're not trying to divide, you know.
Excellent suggestion. We did that. I think it was this past Thursday. We had representatives of the Ward 1 Residents Association Board of Directors with the businesses on Maryland Avenue on a virtual meeting, and it was you know, as successful as it could be, working towards compromise. Yeah.
It was good. I very much, and I know the Alderwoman's, as I mentioned, we were going to meet tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning with the president of the Ward 1 Association on a monthly basis, and I think at that time it might be helpful to invite the businesses as well to share information. It's a challenging time, and I truly respect that. It can be difficult to park downtown normally. You throw in the boat show and all that's going on, and we do feel for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, you may please come forward at this time. Seeing no motion in the chambers, I declare comments by the... Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure nobody else wanted to go first.
Okay. Would you begin with your name and address, please?
Alrighty, so hello. I would introduce myself and tell you guys where I live, but in your own words, it's just mundane information and you don't need it. I'm not here to speak to the council, but rather the citizens of this city, and try in an attempt to enlighten them. Enlighten them to the fact that this city is run by a kangaroo council full of people with egos that are too big for their own bodies. It wasn't enough to just ignore my legal Public Information Act request, Mr. Lyles, that they went as far as to deny me the ability to even submit them, a legal right that I have. Locking the door and making me wait an hour and a half to only have the city manager, Raul, open the mayor's door, try to instigate me into having a physical fight with him, quote unquote, outside after work in front of the building. And when they realized I was not going to just let this die, they have now tried to file false charges on me for trespassing and burglary for waiting in the lobby for the police to show up, as I was instructed by the police to do. I understand that as an emotional person, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and that I sometimes allow these employees with their insults and their ignorance to get me worked up and out of my character that I try and remain calm and professional in. And that is my own problem, and that's something that I will have to deal with. But at the end of the day, I'm exercising my rights, constitutional rights that I have. It is legal and lawful business in an attempt to hold my city government accountable, a value that our great nation was founded upon, that I once believed. Is that not what we are supposed to do as citizens, to hold our government accountable, to challenge them on unlawful or false policies? Have we as citizens fallen so far that we will allow a small group of individuals that we have elected to not only control our lives, but to try and ruin the life and reputation of anyone that challenges their authority? When is enough enough? When will the people stand up and take power back for themselves? At some point, something has to give and something has to change. These people are not kings, queens, or anything. They do not sit on thrones. We elect these people to help us and to work for us, not above us or anything. They work for us, folks, and we as citizens have a duty to hold them accountable when they step out of line and overstep their authority. I'm sure you all saw the newspaper article that was written about me trying to make me out to be a difficult customer. I'm sure that's things that people see about me all the time. The issue is that newspaper article was written under the jest that I'm two different people. They combined two different journalists with cameras into that newspaper article and have attempted to fabricate a story about me going to the local post office and also causing trouble there, in an attempt to make all of you think that I just cause trouble all over town, everywhere I go with a camera. I'm not that person. I'm only the person that comes to City Hall. I don't appreciate that our city government would go as far as to have Rebecca Ritzel and the local paper write a slander piece about me, trying to defame the little bit of reputation I have in this city. It's not okay. And as I said, something needs to change and something has to give. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. I declare comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. You have several appointments. AP 6622, appointment of C. Ryan Chitwood to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board. AP 6722, appointment of Linda Mundy to the Human Relations Commission. AP 6822, appointment of Catherine Moody to the Human Relations Commission. AP 6922, appointment of Rachel Carr to the Education Commission.
I'll entertain a motion to do all of them at once, or would you prefer
So
to do
moved.
them individually?
So move.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the 4 appointments, AP 66, AP 67, AP 68, and AP 69, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item is approval of the consent calendar.
Approval of the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Alderman Gay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is it possible that I can have SA 1223 and SA 1423 pulled? Okay, it appears it because it says underneath end of consent calendar.
Yeah, it does.
2 supplementals.
There's 2 sets of minutes from September 12th and September 19th. Are the, they're no,
It just appears that way on the, it may, I'm sorry.
The only thing that's supposed to be on the consent calendar are the minutes. The essays are, the supplemental appropriations are over $50,000. That's why they're in a separate place on the agenda.
Correct.
They're supposed to be.
there are SA 12 and SA 14 appear to be on the consent calendar.
There are
less
2
than-
that are lower than
Alderwoman-
50.
I mean, I'm sorry,
They are.
Director Dickinson?
Yes, I'm sorry. There are 2 essays that are lower than 50,000 are on the consent calendar.
Yes.
Okay, so SA 12 and SA 13, or 14, I'm sorry. And Alderman Gay, you wanted to pull
Both.
Both.
both of them?
12 and 14, yes.
Okay, so the only items on the consent calendar would be the minutes from the September 12th and September 19th meetings. Is there a second to?
Second.
You don't need a second to pull it off the consent calendar, so.
I'll second the motion to approve the consent calendar, though.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the consent calendar?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call for the consent calendar.
Chair Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shadow-Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you.
The essays. Okay. Okay, so we're going to take up the essays right now. Essay 12, Capital Department, DPW source of surplus funds, capital reserve revenue, capital reserve fund balance, $10,700, capital reserve fund balance, $10,700 in expenditure, land acquisition, $10,700, transfer to capital projects, $10,700.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Alderman Gay?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. while I generally support expanding access to recreational facilities and parks across the city, I watched the entire finance committee meeting. The thing that concerns me specifically about SA 1223 is that the $10,700, to my understanding, and I'd like to be corrected if I'm wrong, is only to move forward with assessment of the property and to have permission from the Department of Defense to.
Mr. Malinoff, City Manager.
Alderman Gay, the $10,700, the Department of Defense requires what I call due diligence funds from the jurisdiction that's requesting their property to be surplused for them to do the appraisal work and other title work associated with surplusing of property. So it's a rule that the federal government is requiring us to submit to prior to them determining if they will sell it, lease it, or give us the land.
So essentially, I mean, we could give them $10,700 and then they could turn around and say, no.
They could, but it's the essence of it is they have to do due diligence on the property, which would include boundary surveys, title work, and appraisal work. So, and that amount of money can be burned up pretty quickly with that amount of work, but it is their requirement. And they could very well end up saying that, but they may not. I've been in other communities where we've gone through this, and it can be a lengthy process, but it's the process they make you go through, so it's not at their expense, and also dots the I's and crosses the T's.
Awesome. I appreciate the explanation. And with as it relates to both SA 1223 and SA 1423, I support the initiatives of the Office of the Mayor to expand recreational access in the city of Annapolis. I think the reason that I'll be opposed to them both, and I'll just do this so we can get out of the way, them both out of the way, is I am much more in favor of seeing our capital improvement dollars, or capital project dollars, to be spent and used in some of our more vulnerable communities, and that's just my personal opinion. And as soon as I watched the Finance Committee meeting, I thought the exact same thing. I think it's a great project, both Waterworks and the Annapolis Gateway Park, but there are so many other issues, and particularly in light of our Housing and Human Welfare Committee meetings, where I'd like to see us put more focus and dollars into. And so that's just my personal opinion, but I appreciate the time.
Alderman Gay, you said you watched the Finance Committee meeting because the mayor attended.
I did,
and
yeah.
gave us a pretty thorough explanation as to what this Gateway project entails.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a huge fan of it. Even before Gavin, I think it was actually 2018, during the midterm elections, I went out to the site with him, Mr. Callahan, and a number of other colleagues in the city of Annapolis. I think it's a fantastic site for a park that sits at the entrance to our city. I got a chance to view it by boat as well. I just think at this particular moment, I'm much more interested in putting funding in places where it's desperately needed.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion? Alderman Matirney?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'm going to just take the time to ask a question about the supplemental appropriations that are about projects that are some are in the capital budget, and they're adding some money, and there is one on, I think it was the sustainable fishery, that's an additional project. My question, I guess, directed to the city managers, when we add these projects that I assume are being run by the Department of Public Works, how do we account for the staff that will be needed to run these projects? How do we address that? It's not in the capital budget. It would be an operational expense, but eventually it will catch up to us.
Right, and the essence of that question is when the project gets to the next step, whether that would be in the budget in this to additional bond funds that would go, or grants that we would be looking for, and that would be part of the budgeting process. I do believe, for example, the 10,700, the 700 of that is administrative cost. We build that in to cover finance department's expenses.
Okay.
The 10,000's ours. So going forward, for example, for the 50,000 one, that too can help with our costs. What we wanted to do on the administrative side, knowing that the mayor wanted to move forward with these projects and had support with them, is to make sure that the capital projects were established and funded to take the next step. In the Navy, and I know the mayor has met with Chet Gladchuck, for example, who has the project adjacent to it where the Alumni Association is, has toured the site and is creating collaboration with them. And the Navy is anxious to get off the dime on whether we're going to do it or not. So that's why it's coming at this period of time, as well as Waterworks Park, because we're working with Anne Arundel County on some zoning related issues there, so that that property can be used for recreation or aquaculture and other worthy projects. But you can rest assured that we'll make sure that whether it's existing staff or contractual staff, that'll be part of our budget request.
I see Director Dickinson has her hand up.
Yeah, just to elaborate on what the city manager said, each capital project has a 5% cost related to overhead allocation. That is a calculation that we do in finance. It not just includes finance department, it's any department that works directly or indirectly on capital projects. And that 5% is derived from finance, purchasing, any other support departments, IT, HR, if that's applicable, not typically in capital, but all those departments' costs, including engineering, DPW engineering and DPW admin, are allocated, and that's how we calculate the 5%. So that number is meant to reimburse the general fund for those costs.
Thank you. I did not know that. Thank you for that information. That's good.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to make our colleague from Ward 6, I do certainly hear where you're coming from, and I do think that these projects do have a component to them that that would address some of the needs of those most at risk and in need in our community. Just as an example, on the gateway concept, I think one of the concepts that the mayor Buckley mentioned as being included in this project would be putting in some water access on that point, and also connecting some, serving the Bloomsbury Square community. So there's actually a waterfront connection between that and King George Street. And I think that would provide a number of benefits along with that water access, be it recreation, fishing, et cetera. And I think but I think your points are right on. I think we do need to make sure as this project goes forward that those kind of things are kept in mind when looking at putting improvements on this peninsula. And the other project that's coming up next, I think the same argument could be made there. That's currently a public park, and I think some improvements there. Remains to be seen exactly what is going to go there, but I think the thing with both these projects is we have to put forward a certain amount of money up front to actually see what we can do with it. And that's where, especially with the waterworks, which is the next essay, that's been sitting unused for the most, except for it's been a passive park, but that building in particular has been sitting there unused for decades. And so I think we have to put forward a little bit of money just to make sure we can get the zoning adjusted. And I'll speak a bit more to that in the next motion.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Chair, I actually will wait as well, because my next comments are more for SA 1423 as it relates to Waterworks Park.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'll wait as well until we get to
Okay.
1423. Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded to give a favorable recommendation to SA 12, to approve SA 1223. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, thank you.
Abstain.
Okay, SA 1423, General Fund Department, DPW, Engineering and Construction Source of Surplus Funds, Reserved for One-Time Uses Revenue. Revenue for one-time uses, $50,000. Expenditure, contractual services, $50,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second properly. Discussion, Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I had a question as it related to this. I do recall in 2020, we had a work session with a group of volunteers that had formed a nonprofit organization, I believe, and they worked heavily in or around the waterworks parks. I think one of them was the, like kind of founding volunteer that helped create the paths, et cetera. And they had put together a plan for the use of the building, for maintenance of the park, et cetera. And I'm wondering where that stands. Has there been communication with that group still? Will the $50,000 go towards that project, or is it going to just a better assessment of what we could potentially do with the property? What really goes into us using the $50,000, in particular for this project?
I'm City Manager Malinoff. Can you answer that question?
On two notes. One, the group, I did experience meeting with that group, and I forget the name of the organization or the bike store they own. There's a gentleman his last name is Klassmeyer, and he was the volunteer, and we met with him, and he showed us some other trails that he was working on in the county as well. And there are other people associated with it. What this funding will go to will certainly expand on that kind of use, but also to look at the buildings for the possibilities of aquaculture and other related use of the park for fishing, for swimming, for recreational activities that may be in concert with that group. But right now, we don't really have any resources beyond volunteer resources there. So the mayor thought we needed to take this step to take the next step to see where we're going. We have met with Anne Arundel County about 4 or 5 times on the zoning, and
are they contributing any funding?
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, it's good communication with the Department of Planning, and I know the mayor has had discussions with the county executive on it because it is in the county. But it's kind of an exciting project because it has many possibilities with the buildings there. And I don't know whether you've been on the tour with the University of Maryland, what they're doing with the aquaculture and the genome of the blue crab that they're doing in Baltimore. And we're looking at trying to bring that here, as well as some sort of recreation activity, as well as the possibility of providing food so that people can come with their family and sit there and enjoy it and eat at the same time. But we don't have any seed money to do that yet, so that's what this is designed for.
Okay. I would also like to have included in that study, as I've talked to the mayor about, using the land next to the solar farm to lease that out actually to cannabis companies, and particularly as recreational uses on the ballot this November. But it is legal to cultivate for medicinal purposes. We passed that legislation related to the use of cannabis dispensaries in the city of Annapolis, in that we included in the definition our support for cultivation. And I think there's money in that. And so I would appreciate it if you would include in your assessment, looking at, the possibility of leasing that land. Maybe it doesn't have to be a cannabis farmer, but maybe hemp, something that would allow the city to make revenue. So, thank you.
Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to ask that the council, but also I think in particular the Environmental Matters Committee, be kept in the loop, because I know there are a number of wetlands out there that are classified as wetlands of special state concern by MDE. And I think there are a number of improvements that are a number of potential improvements at that park. And one thing just to throw, a couple things to throw out there in your mind would be, look, as we talk with the county about potential rezoning, is that we look at placing some of the existing forest in a conservation easement, because I don't believe any of that's in a conservation easement yet. And most of it's really undevelopable because of steep slopes and wetlands out there. That might be a good thing to do at the same time. And regarding the solar farm, I think we could look at expanding the Malinoff bee farm on the underneath the solar panels. Sometimes some jurisdictions owners have combined solar panels with beehives and make it into a pollinator. And
That might take hold.
That'll be my true retirement job.
No, nobody retires.
Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to second some of the sense of Alderman Savage. I'm very concerned that we're going to take what has been a very precious and very fragile environmental area and try to stuff too many things in there. But I believe we're going to see this tomorrow with the mayor, health permitting. And I would really be concerned about trying to squeeze in commercial agriculture and a whole gaggle of people tromping through what it is today, because we've left it alone for a long period of time. And I think leaving it alone may be one of the most environmentally sound things we could consider doing. So we'll see what this study gives us and what our site visit tomorrow shows us, but I caution us to not overuse this space.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor of SA 1423, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Was there an opposition? And one abstention. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Business miscellaneous, continue supplemental appropriations over $50,000, SA 923, 1023, 1123, and 1323.
Is it the pleasure to take all of these together, or would you like to do them individually? Together? Oh, individually, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? No discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of SA 923, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. City Attorney, SA 1023?
Yep.
Second.
Discussion? Alderman Gay?
Thank you. This is for SA 10, correct?
SA 10.
If the finance director, I watched, but I just clarity on exactly what is taking place here with the transfer from the capital fund.
May I call on Finance Director Dickinson? She can help.
Yes, thank you. So when we did the concession agreement and finalized that bond sale, that was the Medco bonds, some of the proceeds came to the city, most notably the concession payment that will be used for city dock purposes. But also in that exchange, we received $850,000
that is going to be used to pay for temporary transportation services with VIA, which you all know we're using VIA services for on-demand rides around the city while Hillman Garage is being built. So that is not a city dock. When we receive the cash, we put it into city dock, but it's not a city dock cost. It's a Hillman Garage cost, but we don't have a capital project for Hillman Garage because we're not doing the construction. That's something that's being handled by Metco. So now that is more appropriately something that should be spent through the parking fund because it's a temporary transit service during the construction of the parking garage. So this transfer, this essay just makes it possible for us to move that $850,000 out of the capital project city dock over to the parking fund so we can pay the VIA transport services.
Did you receive a concession payment already?
Yes.
Okay. So when will the council have an opportunity to weigh in on that?
At any time you want to. It's there. It's in the city dock project, and it's been allocated to that project.
Okay. I appreciate that. I know we were significantly short in what was estimated. And I also am aware that the grants that we told would be coming have not come. I'm not sure if that's in the works still or not. But yeah, I would like to actually add to the Housing Human Welfare meeting a discussion as it relates to the concession payment. I made it very clear, even when we were in the last budget, I included an amendment that would use $1 million from the concession payment to go towards issues with housing in the city of Annapolis. I understand that there are the concession payment was made in two types. Senior debts, I believe, which those funds can only be used for construction, and then a separate, the second payment, which is not in senior debts, but that can be used for whatever the city wishes, and that's what I would like to use those funds for. So if we could add that to our agenda for Housing and Human Welfare, I'd like also, if possible, to have a member of the Finance Department there to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
I'll just add that currently the concession payment has been programmed into the capital budget to be used for city dock. Yeah, if we took funding from that and moved it, it would mean a budget. It would mean a budget transfer. And as you know, we have another ordinance coming on the first reader tonight to use it for another purpose. So you're all aware of that, and Alderman Gay is also aware of that. I think he just is interested in a budget change.
I was aware of it, and I also was aware that when it was touted by the administration, a part of what got me to buy in on the project was the fact that the concession payment financing could be used to subsidize other projects in the city. It was not made clear by either the city manager at the time, the mayor, or staff working on the project that all funding from the concession payment had to go straight to the city dock project. That wasn't made clear to me. And I still don't think that just because, as you mentioned, there can be a budget. Would I come to your office to put in a request to have some of that funding removed and added back to the general fund? How would I go? How do I go forward with utilizing the funding from the concession payment?
Alderman, I'm not sure that's the process.
Well, I'm asking what the process is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pardon me. It would go through the normal legislative process. So that would be going through the Office of Law and through the legislative drafter. Now, other staff could provide you background and information, but that's where you would have to.
Okay. I appreciate that very much.
Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to ask, is this the money that pays for the Annapolis Go? Yes. So I actually would really like to use Annapolis Go, and I've been able to use it all of twice since its inception. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a time when we can discuss the hours of operation for that. For example, not starting pickups until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, for us having, when we have 3 o'clock work sessions or other meetings, it's unusable, but it would really be desirable for council members to be able to use that. So I guess I'm wondering where the input comes from in terms of how it's scheduled. We certainly couldn't use it for a city council nighttime meeting because I think they stop their transit, and so we'd be thumbing after a late council meeting. But we are part of the community that needs transit because Hillman is down and we, like city staff, are here, and I'm not sure we have optimized the availability of the on-demand service. So I would certainly appreciate an opportunity, and maybe it needs to be more than $850. I talked to the prospective new chairman of the transportation department about this whole on-demand kind of thing as an alternative to other forms of transportation. And this is a live experiment on data collection about how well it works, and part of that is when it's working for us and when it's not. So I would certainly value some input and maybe an evaluation of whether more dollars aren't necessary. I don't know where we get them from, but thank you. Thank you for that.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't recall this coming through the Transportation Committee, this particular essay. Did it just go through Finance? Because I think we talked about this at the Transportation Committee back in July, the Annapolis Go. And we talked about some of the various needs to adjust their area of responsibility. Because currently, I don't think it goes towards Ward 2, or part of Ward 2 in particular. It doesn't go to Ward 7 much at all. And I mentioned at that meeting that down Edgewood Road, a number of seniors who live down there, and they have zero public transit options. Zero. The bus doesn't go down there. And so I think we talked about, I think they said they would look to evaluate their coverage to see if they could extend it over there, and I haven't heard back at all. So at this point, I'm kind of uncomfortable passing this, supporting this, because I'd like to know how much would it cost to either add some coverage, and the second question would be, have they looked at adjusting their coverage? I just think that those are important before we go ahead and give them all this money.
So there's two issues there. One, the $850,000 was based on an existing contract. Whereas the services are already scoped. And Eileen Fogarty has reviewed it recently to determine that the $850 is enough to get us through construction. We're fairly confident that will get us through the current services through the construction project. And so this is already a contracted relationship. So whether we've already contracted with them to provide services. So I'm not sure we have an option to pay them or not pay them. This is just my way of moving it to the appropriate fund to be spent. So if we don't move it, we still have a contractual obligation to pay them. It was a part of the concession agreement, and it was agreed to through that process. What you seem to be talking about is expanding the scope of what they're currently doing. That's not out of the question. We would have to determine if it costs more than $850, where the extra funding would come from.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point. So essentially, if we voted this down, you would have to find the money from elsewhere.
If you voted it down, I would just pay via through the City Dock project, which is not the most appropriate place to pay it through.
Well, maybe, I don't know if the chair of transportation would be willing to maybe add this to the agenda again for discussion as far as inviting the Annapolis Go folks back or staff?
Alderman.
I would say yes, we can invite them back. This is paying for the service that's been happening, and it's just moving it from the City Dock project into parking, where it's more appropriate, which is why I believe that it was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting about taking it to transportation as well. And at the time, I suggested that we go ahead and approve this as we're in discussions with them to change some of the routes and opportunities. We did have a long discussion with them. And as part of our Finance Committee meeting, we had somebody else. Didn't somebody else report on? Was it Eric? Krasinski?
On this?
On changing some of the via routes and opportunities. Somebody took notes about adding West Annapolis.
I don't think that was in finance, because I would have raised the issue. They don't come to Ward 4 either. So I would like to have been part of that discussion.
What was that? Yeah.
Maybe it was our Transportation Committee meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it was our
Alderwoman.
briefing of the City Dock project.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
The briefing last week of the City Dock project. There were notes taken by Eileen Fogarty because we wanted to expand it. But this is a separate issue, I think.
So we're going beyond what is the scope of this particular item, but I think a good point is being made. We do need to revisit their routes because it doesn't touch every ward equitably at all.
The motion on the floor.
There is a motion on the floor. Alderwoman Tierney, I'm calling on you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The way I understand this is it's a good thing because by taking that chunk of money that we estimated for the duration of the Hillman project, right? There was an estimated amount that would carry us through the Hillman project, and we put it in as part of the project. By pulling it out and putting it in the parking fund, correct? I believe it gives us more financial autonomy to add to the scope. Now we can say this via stuff is not just dedicated to the Hillman project and has a limited scope. I think this is a good thing that we can then work and expand it to all of the areas that are not serviced by it. Because, we have to remember that this was just for the Hillman project and getting people that ordinarily, whatever, all that stuff. But we have to expand it, and this gives us that autonomy financially to do so. Would that be a fair assessment? Please say yes.
So if we ended up leaving it in City Dock and you wanted to increase services, we would just put the new services under a new contract and then put that cost into parking or transit. If it's going to go beyond the Hillman project, you would consider whether or not you'd want it to go into the transportation fund, because it's just general transit services for the city citizens in general. So there would be that debate. This is parking because it's in lieu, because the parking garage has been deconstructed and is not available, that this temporary $850,000 would be better spent through the parking fund. We can add to it at any time, and we can keep it in the parking fund, or we could split some to the transportation.
So let me be clear. This money is pretty much already
It's
spent.
already spent. It's
In the form of a
partly spent.
contract.
We're paying, they have invoices that come to us monthly, and in their defense, they haven't been paid anything, and they've been providing the services for several months because the concession agreement wasn't approved till recently, and the bond sale didn't take place till recently. So in that transaction, we committed to paying them for this service. So they give us monthly invoices, and we're fairly confident it's going to get us through the year where the garage is under construction.
So if we were to expand the scope of their service, then there would be an additional cost for it.
There may be,
Potentially. Okay. All right, there is a motion on the floor to I'm sorry, Alderman Gay.
No, I just had, also, when you follow up, could we have, to me, $850,000 seems like a lot if they aren't touching, what I'm hearing are 3 of the 4 or 8 wards that we have. The routes aren't working properly. They still are being paid, by the app. I think it's $2 or whatever. Why all the bad if we're paying them $850,000? That's close to $1 million.
So I'm not going to be able to speak to the details of a contract. I know they have more than one vehicle in operation.
I've seen, maybe about
And
4.
you have to pay somebody to be in that vehicle. The fee that was added it was going to be free at first, and then we added a small fee to try to use that for another purpose, the $2 fee. So far, it hasn't netted us much in income, but we still have to pay those drivers and the cost of the vehicles, et cetera, for a full year. And I don't know how many vehicles they have out there.
That would be great information to have.
So that is an Eileen Fogarty question, who is more knowledgeable about the details of the contract itself.
Awesome, yeah, that'd be great.
And transportation too.
If you could provide us all of this should be available to us because it is using, government funding. The amount that they're being paid, how many drivers there are, how many vehicles there are, and the cost of repair for the vehicles, that'd be so helpful.
Okay.
Alderman Gay, I think we need to have an opportunity to speak to the lady who negotiated this agreement, so that we can understand the scope and why the decision was made, as well as what all the expenditures are for. Okay, so we'll have to, maybe Mr. Malinoff can help facilitate that meeting for us. Okay, further discussion? Alderwoman O'Neill?
I believe that maybe Dr. Dua would like to make a comment.
Dr. Dua, would you like to add something to this as to why we should approve this $850,000?
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. The Annapolis Gold service is specifically tied to the reconstruction of the Hillman parking garage. The whole idea or concept of microtransit is, in terms of pilot, is what Alderwoman Tyranny did sponsor some time ago, that we wanted to do it with our own vehicles and our own drivers. That one was put on hold because it was going to coincide with what VIA was doing. So the idea of the department is let VIA go, Annapolis go, keep on providing the microtransit service within the parking garage scope. And based upon the lessons learned, we will actually launch our own pilot project. And as I have told the council before, our concept is to have a much more integrated services of both fixed routes and microtransit. And I have also told the council that our next transit development plan, the focus will be how to basically integrate these two services and how much it will cost. So the VIA service is strictly tied to the reconstruction of the Hillman parking garage, and the general idea of microtransit is different projects. So I wanted to make sure that the VIA is basically based upon the idea that people in the Hillman will be moved to other places. They need to move back. If you look at the original scope, it was much more in the downtown area, and then it was expanded to other service areas. So if council is interested in microtransit as part of it, there is a cost to that, and we will look forward to working with you, bringing you the costs and how it could be implemented together with the fixed route services. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor of SA 1023, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. The next item on the agenda?
Yes, SA 1123.
Grant Planning and Zoning Source of Surplus Funds, Department of Housing and Urban Development Revenue. Federal grant revenue, $60,200. Expenditure, federal grant revenue, $6,200.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Next item.
Yes, ma'am. The next item is SA 1323.
Okay, Capital Projects Fund Department, DPW, source of surplus funds, bonds, revenue, bonds. Elktonia, Cars Beach, 500,000, expenditure, land acquisition, Elktonia, Cars Beach Park, 500,000. And I'm reading it because my city manager didn't read it out loud to you, so I'm reading it to you, for those who don't have it in front of you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. All right, discussion. Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much. Gonna support it. Good project. The house, the Moore House is, I think he was the founding president of a historical black college and university, if I'm not mistaken.
Coppin.
I think all of that's great. I do. I'm reading here. It says the land acquisition is $8.9 million. It says that on page 2. Can I have just a better? Okay, so we're giving on top of the 1.3 million that we're already providing for the land acquisition, we're just adding another 500,000.
May I elaborate?
Of course.
I don't have the entire project. It's on the finance director's screen, but it's for the entire, the numbers you're quoting are for the entire project. The Moore property is separate from the Cars Beach property. And right now, I had a conversation with Joel Dunn this afternoon, who is with the Chesapeake Conservancy, and they're working with the mayor on this hopeful purchase. And there is an appraisal going on, and I think he said the property's now assessed for $1 million. It will likely be quite a bit more. And what this money represents is a city contribution towards additional funds that they and the Conservation Fund are out raising money to meet whatever the final price of the purchase of that piece of land would be.
And will this be final? Because we've heard previously on projects that grantees would be coming through with funding and then the city is left with the bill.
I'm not going to promise, but I know that they're working hard on it with the Conservation Fund and the Chesapeake Conservancy. They've already purchased the bigger piece of property. The advantage of this property is it has buildings. And the goal of that will be to make, whether it's a visitor center and to bring the Blacks of the Chesapeake in. Mr. Leggett's been very involved in this. And the city received a $2 million grant from the National Park Service that can be used only for capital improvements. But we can't do capital improvements on the Cars Beach property because it has a grant restriction on it from Program Open Space that says we can't do capital improvements on it. So the idea is to take the Moore's property and hopefully with the support of the federal government be able to do the capital improvements on that property. So it enables that money to be freed up. The only thing that can be done on Cars Beach with that funding is, I think, interpretive signs and a non-impactful trail to the environment. So this is giving the city seed money to work with our partners to put in a bid that will then go to the purchase, and then followed up will be the capital improvements that we believe we have $2 million towards, and whatever else will come from that. I can't tell you any more than that because, obviously with negotiations and property valuation, we don't know where that will end up. But this gives the city the ability to leverage other people who are interested in helping out.
Awesome. This is, like I said, good project. The dedication that the staff has to these type of projects, like tonight we've approved a number of projects already, capital improvement projects for these recreational, ideas that the mayor's office has. I'd like that same dedication when it comes down to spending money to help our most vulnerable citizens. Every time I feel like get into an issue where we want to use, financing to put into our underserved communities, we always run into some barrier. But with these projects, it's just like green light, go. 500,000, 1.3. It's like, that's frustrating.
Thank you. Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yeah, just the city manager was very thorough with his response. Only thing I'll add is that this property in particular it's difficult to. I wish I had a picture to show you handy, but it's away from. It's not connected to the road, so it's kind of isolated. It is connected to the waterway, but it's wedged in there between Bay Woods on the north, and then to the south is Altonia, and the access to this house actually went through Bay Woods property. I think Bay Woods had to actually grant an easement to the property owner just to access their property, if I'm not mistaken. And so, so it's difficult to do much with the property by itself. So I think it makes sense to have it coupled with the larger property next door, the Cars Beach, Octonian Beach, yeah, I'd look forward to seeing how this goes. It'd be great, I think, to have a home for Blacks of Chesapeake and look to doing some other things with that footprint there. So yeah, definitely, I think this would be great for Ward 7.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier, the mayor came to our finance committee meeting and did have pictures. So if anyone would like to see, can refer back to the finance committee of last week, I think it was last Wednesday. Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, or the motion is to give a favorable recommendation to motion to approve SA 1323. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am. The next item on the agenda is public hearing on Resolution R5622, City Dock Holiday Market and Itinerant Merchant Sales in the Historic District.
Okay, those wishing to speak, no one signed up to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak who didn't sign up on this item? Do I have to say that 3 times? Okay. I declare the public hearing on R56 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you present the next item?
Yes, ma'am. Legislative actions, first readers, ordinances, beginning with 03122, Revenue and Finance Budget, Annapolis Community Grant Program.
May I have a motion?
Second.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Alderman Shedemar, sorry.
Yeah, just a quick one for any of the sponsors. Have we had this as an issue pop up in the past, or is this precautionary?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Alderman Savage?
If you remember the Eastport Methodist, was it?
Yeah, Eastport United Methodist.
United Methodist that came up.
Okay.
Alderman Gay?
Sponsor.
I'm sorry, Alderman Savage, were you finished? Okay, Alderman Gay?
Co-sponsor, please.
Same as well, please.
I was requesting to be added as co-sponsor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of 03122, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
You can add me as a co-sponsor as well, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am. The next item on the agenda for first reader, 03922, Administration, Mayor, Harbor Master, for the purpose of City of Annapolis Harbor Master reporting to the Deputy City Manager for Resiliency and Sustainability.
Okay.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion? Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Maritime Advisory Board has asked to have this referred to them as well.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of a favorable
All in favor of
Pass.
03922 on first reader?
on first reader? We still have to vote on it for
Aye.
first reader?
Yes, I was just correcting your
Oh,
language.
I'm sorry. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, and I'll refer 03922 also to the Rules and City Government Committee, in addition to the Maritime Board. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item for first reader is 04122, Administration Rules of Procedure, Reading Amendment, Passage of Ordinances, Staff Reports Required.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt on first readers.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Alderman Gay?
Is this not already actively a thing?
I'm sorry?
Is this not already a thing?
Let me explain. Could I? Yeah.
Alderman Tierney?
I know. I feel like a school teacher. Staff reports have been very helpful. I think we can all agree, but there's no code requirement to do so, to provide them. So I thought that there should be as we continue on. And Mr. Malinoff is extremely grateful that I put it, that I'm suggesting that it's codified, but I just think it's a good practice and worth requiring in the code. I had to explain that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Yeah,
He's
quick
sticking
follow-up.
out his tongue.
Alderwoman Pindell Charles, I remember you have requested that the staff also attach equity and notes as it relates to the ordinances and resolutions. Is that still, what happened with that? I feel like it may be perfect to add to this.
Well, if you recall, during our budget process, we had asked for an assistant ombudsman and equity officer, but that was not voted upon. Instead, we voted to have a consultant to do that work. So I think it would be more prudent if we waited for the consultant to do the work throughout this fiscal year, see what they come back with, and that certainly can be added to something that we want the consultant to take a look at.
Okay,
It's a
I'll talk to you
contractual
offline because
position.
that doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
I'll talk to you just so that we can move the agenda because it's on first reader. So
Right, so just to let you know, that's where the process is.
okay, yeah, the consultant thing is throwing me, but we can talk.
Yeah, well, that's what we voted on as a body, not as the actual position, but as a consultant position for 1 year. And I have spoken with the chief of staff as well as our Hillary Rodovich, and so is Ms. Hopkins, are all working on that to get that moving, and hopefully we will have something in place by next month. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alderman O'Neill?
No.
Oh, okay. Alderman Arnett?
I'd like to be added as co-sponsor.
Okay, further discussion? The motion is to adopt 04122 on first reader. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nays, thank you. I refer 04122 to the Rules and City Government Committee. Mr. City Manager, City Attorney, I'm sorry, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. For first reader, 04622, Issuance of General Obligation Bonds and Bond Anticipation Notes.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of adopting 04622 on first reader, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none. I'd like to refer 04622 to the Finance Committee, Financial Advisory Commission. I think that should be two, Finance Committee and the Financial Advisory Commission. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item for first reader is 04722, Vehicles and Traffic, Special Residential Parking Districts, Non-Resident Parking Permits and Temporary Passes.
That we pulled that.
I'll entertain a motion.
That was postponed?
Are you moving it?
No, we postponed it.
Oh, okay. So 042 has been postponed.
Yes, we're now on 04922, my apologies.
Okay.
Planning and zoning, parking and loading regulations, parking fee in lieu of meeting off-street parking requirements.
Okay, may I entertain a motion?
So moved.
Moved and properly second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Up, I'm sorry. Okay, Alderman Arnett and then Alderwoman Tierney.
Thank you.
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Okay. Alderwoman Tierney?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know this isn't, typical for introduction to first reader, but I see some attendees in the audience that I really think that I need to explain the objective of this bill before it moves into the queue. Is that appropriate? May I? May I just give some background?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on one
It's
second.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
What's that? Hmm?
Madam Mayor, I just had to check. There was a typographical error. What I stated in the comment 404922 was correct. It's planning and zoning, parking and loading regulations, parking fee in lieu, meeting off-street parking requirements is correct on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, Alderwoman.
Motion,
We have a motion.
Yep.
Okay.
And you have, yep.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to just give you some background on this. And to do so, I have to bring up 09-22 just very briefly. The background was that 09-22 was introduced, I believe, as a means to facilitate outside dining by basically removing any parking lot requirements. The frustration that evolved about 09-22 is that it was conflated with outside dining and a way to facilitate it. And since its introduction, we've learned from our planning department that it has minimal impact of deleting asphalt in existing high-density areas, as most restaurants have established parking lots that they use and they don't want to give them up. The council attempted to address this by amending 09-22 with multiple amendments that were deemed as not germane. So consequently, this separate bill assumes that parking requirements remain, and per recommendation of the BAA study, which was thanks to my colleague, was part of the 09-22 delay to have this study done. It does provide, it recommends to provide legislation to charge a fee for an approved outside dining expansion, perhaps based on parking spaces utilized. This fee will go to the Transportation Fund to support transit for alternatives to car use. So it does adopt the merits of my colleague Alderman Schottlemeyer's intent of smart growth, where it does give an optimal use of existing asphalt, and it also adds money to the Transportation Fund, which will give us alternatives to transit. So they are both in the scope of smart growth, because that is one other problem is chicken and the egg, is that if we deleted parking, we really don't have a sufficient transit system yet to accommodate that. So this fee, in talking to the mayor today, and in the legislation before you, will be reviewed based on the size of the restaurant and the parking spaces that they do not use. So it gives every restaurant the opportunity to say how many, they want to have outside dining in their parking lot, and there will be a fee addressed in a separate resolution to address those particulars. The term is not really a sliding fee, it's just we'll have to evaluate a fee based on the size of the restaurant and the spaces that they utilize. So I feel that this is a good way to move forward with no pun intended, to move forward with outside dining, as it is an acceptable use, and we really need to have something in structure, in place. We need to have something in place by next year. The other important part of this bill is that it would not take effect until April of next year. So I just wanted to give that background. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Chandler, you're cool.
Yeah, I think we're all expecting a WWE style thing here. Some quick update on, if you'll indulge me, because this and 09 are so intrinsically linked and rivaled that we kind of can't compare one without comparing the other. So a minor update on 09, and then I'll get into my specific issue on 49. I did have a meeting today with Cynthia regarding the fee issue, which places the fee calculation on a different thing from the original requirement. We'll be getting that in about 2 weeks, or before the next 2 weeks, in time for the next potential final vote. I'll be happy to share that with you. My issue with 49 comes down to that fundamental question of which comes first, the chicken or the egg? In this case, which comes first, adequate transit or density? You cannot get any kind of adequate transportation system without density. I have shared this out with my colleagues a couple times, cited the sources in which I'm coming from this. Director Laplace, if you wouldn't mind chiming in as well for, do you need a density to have of a certain type to have an effective mass transit system? Yeah, you'd have to come up to the mic. And then after.
Alderman, this is first reader, right? You know what the city attorney is telling me, right?
All right, never mind. I'll let him stay there, but I'll get back to a little more ironing of the point.
We will have ample time to debate and amend and make parallels too, I think.
And if I could go on one other thing then. This keeps the current requirements the same unless a fee is paid, which potentially interferes with some of the restaurants using private lots and complexes. It's a little more straightforward for the two that participated in the pilot that own their own property space, but the ones that are in complexes, it makes it a lot more calculated, incorporates a lot more things and landlords participating, rather than just letting the restaurants pay in for what their capacity is. And the other issue is it does not allow that flexibility for potential reuse of space or redevelopment. The new comprehensive plan and the previous 2009 comprehensive plan had big elements of why we needed to move away from parking requirements for their inefficient use of space. I won't bore us with the 2009's exact quote for quote in the name of time, but they really stress that these just end up forcing more spreading out, more dependency upon automobiles, and hurt our ability to get that transit system in. And I will stop talking on this now.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I don't think we should be debating this at the moment, but I do want to just ask my colleagues to support this on first reader. We all supported 09 on first reader, just so we could have a discussion about options. And this is just another option to 09. It shares the intent, but seeks a compromise in the hopes that we can get more support for in the community, but also amongst this body. Originally, this was going to be an amendment to 09, but it was determined that it needed to be a separate piece of legislation. That's why we're just trying to get this on the floor for discussion. And I do want to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Thank you. Alderwoman Tierney, are you going to let us debate
Point of clarification only is that this legislation was written to be independent of 09-22 because 09-22 proved to not be the vehicle to accommodate outside dining. It would try to do too much. So that can continue on and addressing parking waivers citywide or whatever, but this is independent and it is a way to accommodate outside dining, period.
Thank you. So the motion on the floor is to give a favorable recommendation to. Oh my God. I'm used to chairing a committee, you know?
Exactly.
So I'm sorry. To adopt 04922 on first reader. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Oh my God.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item. Oh, before we go on, I want to refer 049 to Rules and City Government and the Planning Commission. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Resolutions, beginning with R4122 on first reader, military bowl parade and football game for the purpose of identifying military bowl parade football game that will be held on December 28th as a major special event and waiving charges for certain City of Annapolis costs related to city services for that event.
Wow, we're getting this early this year, aren't we?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, discussion, Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I had, so bringing up the staff report, let's see, I thought there was a fiscal impact on this. I clicked on the wrong thing, sorry. Yeah, there's a fiscal impact note. I think it's, bear with me, bringing it up now. So 15,000, if we waive these permit fees, we'll be waiving up to $15,000 worth of permitting and other charges. So it would be foregoing revenue of $15,000. And I asked the city manager for some additional details as far as if there were other costs, for example, to the police or OEM or whoever, as far as costs. And he did get back to say that based on totals for, this is from the police department, based on totals for recent games and past military bowls, we estimate 20 to 23,000 as far as costs. And this is overtime, sometimes some other parking meter usage time. So what the point is that our expenses are actually more than the fees we would collect. This is coming from our own department. Personally, I'm not inclined to support this. The Navy is a big organization, has a lot of money. We are struggling. I know it seems like it's not a lot of money, but I think it's not much to ask the Navy to simply contribute and help us pay our police officers, frankly. So that's why I'm not going to be supporting this. I'm glad they're doing the parade, but I just don't think it's appropriate for us to be approving.
Thank you, Alderman Gay, and then Alderwoman Pendle-Charles.
Thank you so much, Madam. Geez, I keep ready to say Mayor as well, Madam Chairman. I don't know what the official. Look, I'm looking through Robert's rules right now.
That's my
good.
Quickly, the very first piece of legislation I ever introduced was the military bowl in 2019 for us to waive the fees, and I typically have been in supportive of it. But I am in agreement with my colleague from Ward 7 that, financial times are tough for the city of Annapolis. And I don't think it's well, to get into good practice of handing out, what essentially is like a tax break to, multi-million-dollar organizations, whether it be the sporting side of the academy or the actual institution itself. And so I will not be supporting it either. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Pendle-Charles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To our finance director. I have a question to our finance director. That's okay. What, typically, over the past, I'd say 5 years, and take out COVID, how much money does the Military Bowl provide to the city, and I guess even beneficial to the city itself regarding businesses and hotels and that sort of thing?
So I don't have that number at hand. I think that Felicia Nolan has more information about what the actual costs are, but as far as the economic benefit that we get from it, I don't know if economic development staff would have that, but we have not accumulated the total picture of.
I know they give us a check every year, don't they? In January, don't they present us with a check? Don't they?
I don't think
thought-
so.
They don't?
The boat show gives us a
I
check.
thought,
Yeah.
I don't know
But-
why I thought the Military Bowl has done it before.
They have been before us, but only to make the case to waive their fees.
Yeah, they've come to defend the fee waiver. It was a couple of years ago
Okay. I
when it was in
thinking they did.
question.
Okay, all righty, thank you.
But this is on first reader, so we will have an opportunity, however, to ask the questions that you just posed about the financial impact to the city, some general idea. And, their representatives, and I think they're a private organization that does the sponsoring, but they will, I'm sure, be before us to answer all of our questions. Alderwoman Tierney, and
Thank
then
you,
Alderman
Madam.
Gay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just because others spoke, I'm just going to say that there's always a reason for City Council to waive our fee for services, but until at least I see the line between projected revenue and projected expenses align after our ARPA funds are utilized, it is really hard for me to defend free services. So I'm a no vote as well.
Alderman Gay,
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Because you said it's only on first reader,
it's only on first.
typically, if I'm not mistaken, we typically just pass resolutions first, second, same night, right? Or no, with this?
We can, but
Second reading.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure if we were doing, okay, thank you.
so we will have the opportunity to get additional information. Alderman Savage?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that it was on first reader. So, I guess I'll support on first reader to let them make their case if they want to, but I guess my opinion's known on second reader at this point.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting R41 on first reader, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Was that an opposed? Okay, so two in opposition. All right, I will refer R4122 to the Finance Committee. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item is Resolution R5122 on first reader, Director of Transportation Marcus G. Moore, for the purpose of expressly confirming the appointment of Marcus G. Moore as Director of Transportation and consenting to compensate the Director.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. It's been moved and second. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. Oh, hearing none.
I have a question, I believe, for the city manager in reviewing the Department of Transportation and all, and in the code, there's a section 12.08130 for a parking coordinator. If you allow me to read, the purpose of this position is to facilitate the coordination and implementation of parking principles, policies, laws, and regulations at the direction of the Director of Transportation. The coordinator shall also assist the Parking Advisory Committee, serve as a liaison between the Transportation Board and the Parking Advisory Commission, and arrange for the gathering of information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The coordinator shall be appointed by the Department of Transportation and serve at the pleasure of the Department of Transportation. This position is not filled. I always assumed that it was because SP Plus was taking on that role. And my question is, will this position be filled under the new Director of Transportation? I just thought this was the opportunity to ask that.
Well, in as much as this is on first reader, can I answer the next time? Because I just don't know the status of all the positions, and it would be disingenuous of me to,
Okay.
I would say yes, but I don't know.
No, I'm glad
And I'd like to find out, because clearly there's an issue that we need to address.
Yeah.
And
So that,
and
okay. Thank
I
you.
will get an answer to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm assuming the rules will be, the rules will be suspended to pass this tonight. It says on the second page that confirmation. I'm just reading what it says there. Confirmation that the city council meeting is scheduled for October the 10th. And so I wasn't sure if we were,
I'm not, where are you reading that?
page 2
Page 2 of what?
of the attachment.
Resolution.
Mayor Buckley memo and more confirmation. Page 2, it says, accordingly, we trust that you find the education, training, and experience of Mr. Moore to exceed minimum qualification for the position. Mr. Moore will be present for confirmation at the council meeting. No?
Mr.
No,
Memiloff, is
I
that your
think
intent?
the original intent was, but without Mayor Buckley being here, I think the idea and I hate to delay it, and I understand myself. I mean, I would leave it up to the will of the council, but that was the reason we delayed it.
So we are going to postpone until
Give Mayor Buckley the
Buckley is
opportunity.
present.
Right.
Marcus is probably happy after this week.
Well, he might second guess, so you might want to. We talked about it over the week.
Oh my God.
Okay, so this is going to be postponed.
Well, first
We're going to
reader.
take action on it from first reader.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you
So
for the
it's-
clarity. I just was reading that. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. So further discussion, seeing none, all in favor of adopting R 5122 on first reader, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is Resolution R 5322, Sailing Vessel Links, Docking Fee Waiver for the purpose of waiving fees for docking the sailing vessel Links at the Annapolis City Dock for 10 days in October.
So move.
Second.
Okay, I'll remind you again that this is on first reader.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, Alderman Gay.
Just for clarity, this is a nonprofit seeking a waiver of fees, just for clarity for the general public.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
thank you, Madam Mayor. However, I would direct your attention to the first whereas clause on page 1. This is to occur October 19th through 29th. That there will not be a council meeting between now and that time, so I had intended to make a motion that we suspend the rules. Otherwise, the approval will come too late for them to visit.
So are you making the motion to suspend the rules?
Well, I don't know whether it's appropriate. I see other discussion.
Well,
No,
you can
so I
make the
move-
motion,
Well, point of order.
or,
But she said that it's on the first reader and time.
so you're saying we
Not really
could,
the case.
okay. But is it fair to not let them know in advance? Well, if there's a motion to move this to second reader,
Second.
okay. Alderman,
Suspend the rules.
okay, so I need to vote on that first.
Yes.
And it needs to be unanimous?
Yes.
Or just a majority, simple majority? I'm going.
You gotta take it one at a time.
Is this a secondary
First
motion?
reader first, then you need a motion for second reader.
Okay.
To adopt on second reader in the same meeting, that has to be unanimous. So we gotta take the motion, you got the motion and a second to pass on first reader.
Okay.
Do that first.
So we have that.
So we have that. So the motion on the floor
You
is,
didn't vote.
We didn't vote.
we
on
haven't
it.
voted, no.
So let's, don't do three things, let's just do one.
Well,
Motion to adopt has been seconded for first reader, let's do that.
okay, that's what I was about to say. So, all in favor, if there's no discussion, all in favor of adopting R 5322 on first reader, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? No. Okay, Now I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Wait,
To go-
wait.
To go to second reader.
The motion, let's make it clear.
Okay.
The motion to suspend the rules and adopt R 5322 on second reading.
Okay.
No, they're separate. The motion to suspend the rules needs a unanimous vote,
Right.
and then we take one more vote to adopt on second reader.
Right.
With a roll call.
So suspend the rules first and then adopt on second
Right.
reader.
But understand, when you suspend the rules, when you say suspend the rules, you have to say what you're suspending the rules to do. So that's why I included both, even though
Okay.
they're two separate actions.
Okay.
You're suspending the rules to do something.
To adopt on second reader.
Right. Now,
Go on, get that book
get
up.
that vote, you come back and you now have it on the table to move on second reading.
Okay, this is just not being fun anymore. I'm just saying. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules to adopt R 53 on second reader.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye. Aye.
That has to be unanimous, right, Regina?
That's for
Do
suspending
you need
rules.
to roll call that? I didn't, any nays? I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, what are we voting on?
Suspending the rules.
Suspending the rules.
Suspending the rules.
Okay,
Okay.
now we move. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules,
No, we did.
Okay.
Motion to adopt.
to adopt
On third
On
reading.
second reader.
in the same meeting, okay. So the motion I will entertain to adopt R 5322 on second reader.
So moved.
Okay. Was there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Do we have to have discussion, really? Alderman, I'm just kidding. Alderman Tierney?
Yes, sorry. I think you know from rules in city government that Beth Bellis, as the harbor master, did new rules and regulations to accommodate situations like this for nonprofits. We gave them 7 free docking days in this case. So I'm not supporting this because I believe that compromise should be acknowledged, and then it would be appropriate for them to pay for the additional 3 days, with them already getting 7 free days. I'm speaking from a fiscal lens as well, because this dock is a source of revenue, which we have very limited opportunity. And again, it is a nonprofit, but the rules that Beth Bellis adopted, address nonprofits, and I thought it was pretty generous for her to give them 7 free docking door days, and I think in response they could accommodate the extra 3. So I'm going to vote no on it.
Or are you offering an amendment?
When I wasn't on mic, so don't make me say that again. Anyways,
Alderman Gay?
I'm sorry. You're voting against R 5322?
I'm voting against our 53-22 for the extended 3-day. Yeah, I am.
But the motion on the floor is to support. I mean, she can still speak in opposition to it.
Yeah.
but
No, I
want
just
to be
was.
clear.
I was confused. What did you mentioned that something about the nonprofit? I couldn't hear you at all. I'm sorry.
Okay, Beth Bellis is harbor master, worked on new rules and regulations. But since we got the new long dock, right, it wasn't ours for a long, long time, and now we have the long dock. So she put together rules and regulations, being that it is a source of revenue, again, which we have limited opportunity to do that. And she went through and developed rules and regs that were vetted by rules and city rules, the committees and everybody else. It went to the maritime. So she established these rules. And one of them was to address these needs of nonprofits. So in her rules, she accommodates nonprofits by giving them 7 free docking days. So I believe that that's very fair. And that the fact that they're asking they're asking us to waive fees for the additional 3. They want a total of 10.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm just saying, in the spirit of compromise, we're giving them 7. They should accommodate the extra 3.
No, I appreciate
That's all.
the background. I didn't realize that the director had created the rules and regulations. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Alderwoman O'Neill.
I don't see the fiscal impact report. Do we know what the cost of 3 days?
Ms. Dickinson, I just looked for the same thing. It's not attached, because it was on first reader, so. Is there any way of knowing what it would cost for those 3 days?
I am told that it's $2,200, but this is from an unreliable, I'm just getting text messages from
Brian?
from home. And yes, and I'm told that there is likely not to be anybody using the dock during that period of time either. It's not booked. And $2,200 is what I'm told by Mr. Callahan, the cost.
For 10 days or for 3 days?
10 days. 10 days.
2,200 is for 10 days or 3 days?
I'm asking.
I think it's 10 days.
I believe 10 days.
It would make sense when she came before us for the fees were low enough that over 10 days.
Nope, I'm wrong. He says for the 3 days.
That is for the 3 days?
Yes.
So that is, I apologize.
Alderman Schnellmeyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologize for speaking out of turn. For my clarification then, the $2,200, that would be the fee that the nonprofit would be paying to the city, or that would be the cost for the city providing the free space for 3 extra days?
That would be the cost for them to provide it. It's not costing us anything other than being present and making sure everything's okay. But if they were to pay, that would be the cost they would normally have to pay.
2,200 with 2
Right.
zeros?
Yes.
All right.
But I understand it's not booked at this point, and so it's an opportunity to bring in an event too.
Alderman, you still have the floor.
This is just a general fun fact. I was actually in the Rockport area when they were building this, so it's built in Rockport, Maine.
So you have a personal connection. Is that what you're saying? Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting R5322 on second reader?
Aye.
Please say aye.
Roll
Aye.
call. Roll call, isn't it?
It's a roll call? Okay, your turn. Aye.
Okay, Alderman Finlayson, Alderman Kendall Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Shannon.
Aye.
Shoot, that's an Alderman, I'm sorry. Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderman Tierney,
No.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
That resolution carries.
Thank you. We're done with that now, right? Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
We're now on second readers, beginning with
Nope. 019.
019.
Yes, 01922 Stanton Center lease agreement. Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation.
Okay, we have 3 such lease agreements. Is there any interest in taking them?
Yes, I move all 3.
collective?
I second that.
Okay, let me make sure there's only 3. Yes.
19, I'll state them, Madam
Okay.
Mayor. 01922 Stanton Center lease agreements. First one, 01922 is Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation. 02222 is Annapolis Arts District. And 02322 is We Care and Friends.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, I believe. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving, adopting 019, 022, and 023
On second reader.
on second reader, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to approve on third reader. All
So
3.
moved. Second?
Second. Roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles,
Aye.
Alderman Shannon.
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
And that ordinance passes.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item for on second readers, 02722 Public Services, Water Service, Billing, Waiving Late Penalties.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Alderman Gay,
I'll make a motion.
moving into a second. Discussion? Alderman Gay?
Thank you so much. Pleased to be a co-sponsor on this. Just clarity from the director. This is something that you traditionally do, correct? This isn't.
No, I currently have no authority to waive late penalties.
Okay, so this will be the first time.
Yes, there are, and this has been an issue going through some of the council members, people coming and asking if somebody could have something waived, and there's no authority in the code to allow me to do that, unless it's something that was our fault.
And just two other really quick questions. My first being, how do you believe that it would positively impact our residents, which really is a no-brainer? But then secondly, do you think it'll negatively impact the city?
So yes, we will not collect some penalty revenue that we typically would collect.
But not putting us in a position where we will be vulnerable in
Not
it.
a material amount, and it's utility funds, so it's not a general fund issue, but still, it will decrease the revenue slightly in the utility funds for the penalties.
I think it's awesome
It
you're doing
just
this.
allows us some flexibility to occasionally waive fees as requested for any unforeseen circumstances.
Are you listed as a sponsor?
I am, and I'm happy to be a sponsor, yeah.
I think you're the only one who is.
It's my legislation. I know I'm on it. So, okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting 02722 on second reader?
Aye.
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 Bless you.
Opposed? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt 02722 on third reader.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
No.
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just keep taking your job, don't I?
It's okay. You can have it some days.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson, Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Okay, that resolution passes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item for second reader is 02822, Vehicles and Traffic, Parking Meters, Parking in Metered Space.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting 02822 on second reader, please say aye.
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 I'd like
Opposed?
to be added as a sponsor.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adopt 02822 on third reader.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. You did it. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shandon Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Okay, that resolution passes. Ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item on second reader is 03222, Human Resources, Exempt Service Salary for the purpose of modifying the Assistant City Manager position salary.
Okay, I'll
moved.
entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Alderman Gay, then Alderman Shannemeyer, and Alderman Arnett.
Thank you so much. I think it's no secret I've been opposed to what I consider to be top-heavy city government with 3 city managers. So I'll vote against this. I even thought when we had brought in the assistant to the city manager, in a way it seemed excessive because again, maybe it was the person, I don't know, but I just didn't think that the role brought any additional support to the office of the city manager. And it further worries me that the position will be added with a salary of $170,000. Or at least that's what it says here in the fiscal note. I'm not.
Was it second?
But yeah, so that's my position on it,
Was it
and I've
seconded?
maintained that position since the beginning.
Further discussion? I think Alderman Arnett. Okay, I'm sorry. See, now I know why I can't be upset with the mayor, because these guys weigh heavy on your attention. So you ladies are, go ahead, Alderman now.
They're high maintenance.
Remember, I sit at the very end over there, so Alderman Arnett?
I think we should vote favorably on this now that we've given the city manager the responsibility of running all the staff reports.
I know.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Thank you. I'm a no on this, and I'll explain why. Unfortunately, it addresses two separate things, and I'm a no on the latter, on the assistant city manager position, because I am very hesitant to approve money for staff in the middle of a fiscal year or the beginning of a fiscal year. I think an evaluation of an added staff member or whatever should be done in the evaluation of the entire budget. There are a lot of needs coming up. I brought up the example of the police having added staff on a grant that's going to run out. I brought up, even this parking coordinator. So I think any addition in staff should be addressed in the review of the entire budget. So I'm a no.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm saying this as a joke, but maybe not. I would submit to anyone that I guess if you vote against this, that if you have to go to Mr. Malinoff for something that an assistant city manager or any one of these positions would provide, maybe you will not get what you need.
That's called retaliation.
No. No.
Mr. Malinoff, do you want to respond? You don't have to.
As I explained in the meetings where I came to testify on this, this position was evaluated by the Human Resources Director, by the previous city manager, and verified by me. I've done this type of work for over 3 decades now, and I've seen this position in numerous governments in this state and outside of this state. And when I was asked to do the staff report a couple of weeks ago, that was kind of my reaction, which is I have a hard time doing the high level stuff and little time to do the other stuff. And I was asking the Office of Law to help bail me out and they said, well, their staffing's down. And I said, well, my staffing's down 100% because it's just me. Now, the deputy city manager does the environmental work, but that used to be an entire department. And we work together, and I certainly support the work that she's doing, but this is a critical position. And I think all of you will benefit from it in ways beyond the salary, because the idea is to bring in somebody that's highly qualified, that will learn from somebody who is experienced and perhaps be with you for years in the future. So that's really all I'd like to say.
Thank you. Alderman Gay and then Alderman Savage.
I think Savage was first.
Finlayson.
I think he was first before me.
Alderman Gay.
Oh, okay.
Then Alderman Savage, and then Alderman Finlayson.
According to Robert's Rules of Order, when discussion is in place,
Alderman, would you like to speak on this?
I'm just telling you what the Robert's Rule says.
Okay, I'm glad you have the book.
Well, are you set on a salary of $170,000, moving the position from A14 to A18?
That's salary and benefits.
Okay, well, so a salary of $130,000. Are you set on that?
I'm not set on anything. I just need a range so that I can advertise the position. I can't advertise the position right now, and the idea is to advertise it. And I'm gonna, if I can bring in somebody for less, I certainly will. But it gives the opportunity to see who's out there, and it compares with other communities that we're competing with. And that includes our benefits, and our benefit calculator is between 30 to 40%. And so it depends on the position, but so it's not just salary.
Okay, yeah, that's just,
And I'm not set.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll figure that out when we get applicants.
yeah, I think the last person that was in that role came in at 108. And so it'd be a significant increase, but I understand definitely the need.
We don't know.
Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just make 2 points for my colleagues. I do want to ask that they maybe reconsider any opposition they may have. I think 2 points. I think we need to look at this is, in my mind anyway, the most important city office, department, whatever you want to call it, in the entire city, because it's the management apparatus for all the other departments. And so it's really crucial, I think, they have the support and resources that they need. As the city manager mentioned, well, and also I think he didn't mention, but I think we need to keep in mind that this position, hopefully, we can get somebody in there who can be trained by Mr. Malinoff, who is a fully trained and certified city manager. To hopefully he's not going to be with us forever. Hopefully we can get somebody trained to consider replacing him at some point. So I think, but he also mentioned about the deputy city manager for resilience and sustainability. And we do know that position has its own full plate of unique responsibilities. And I think that's why it's justified to have another position in there, assistant in there for the city manager. The other part I think we need to look at this, the way we need to look at this is it's really support for us. We all know, I think, how often we contact the city manager's office with things. And this is going to help us. I think we need to look at it that way. I think this is going to increase the amount of not that Mr. Malinoff's been incredibly rapid with his responses, but I think he really shouldn't be bogged down with a lot of our requests. I think this would help him out and get us their answers and any other requests we have, because he's really our main point of contact. I know we can go to the directors, but he's really the main point of contact for us, and that's why I definitely ask that people maybe reconsider any kind of opposition. I fully intend to support this.
Alderman Schnellmeyer and then Alderman Gay.
Thank you. We also already approved most of the salary in our previous budget too. So unless I'm misunderstanding the fiscal note, which says of which 141,000 was included in the fiscal year 2023 budget. So now that I'm saying that out loud, I was misunderstanding that, and we'll stop talking.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. To my colleague from Ward 7, I believe what would best help the Annapolis City Council would be well, I won't say that. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings on the dais, but would best help the Annapolis City Council would to bring in staff for the Annapolis City Council. We currently have no staff. And when we did have staff, we had one person help 8 people. And so that's a significant problem. And bringing in a staff member to help the Annapolis City Council would be significantly cheaper than what is proposed here for the, is this now being called, okay, the assistant city manager. So it's no longer the assistant to the city manager. It's actually the assistant city manager.
It never was assistant to the city manager.
Okay, well, I don't know what it is. I've read it differently on several different things. Mr. Malinoff, just my last question. Do you envision them, what's your goal for this person to assist in the office? I know the last time around they were kind of more focused on community and social issues. Is that your same goal, or are you hoping to bring them in to actually assist in everyday management of a city?
Latter, to help you all, to be your contact and your source of administration and follow through. That's how I see my job. I don't see my job as being just for one elected official. I see it for all the elected officials and the citizens of the city And this individual will be supporting us on the strategic plan, on the CNI grant, on the communications that include our monthly reports, a variety of different tools that, frankly, some of those I helped create when I was here before with a similar position. So I think you will benefit from it. And I think you will see the fruits of that level of support and professionalism. It isn't for me, or it's for all of us. And that's how I see a position like this. The International City County Management Association, we have tenets of ethics and how we are supposed to support council and governments. Stay out of politics. You are the policymakers. And I'll share you something I sent to all the directors, having to be our leadership goals and objectives, and spelling all that out. And I think once you see that, you'll understand what value it'll bring to you. And that's what I'm looking for in that position, is somebody that'll bring you the value added that a professional will bring.
I think Alderwoman O'Neill.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I would like to say is that from the very beginning, when this was first introduced, I was concerned that there are 3 parts to this, and all we've ever talked about was the assistant city manager part. And we haven't talked about the other 2 parts, which is why I will not be supporting it, because I don't feel that all 3 should be wrapped up into one.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett, did you have your hand up, or was it Alderman Savage? Well, come on, guys.
Can you clarify, I'm sorry, what 3 parts you're referring to? I didn't quite follow.
Sure. So it's the purpose of modifying the assistant city manager position salary, creating a new special projects arts administration position, and changing the number of days that temporary employees shall be employed. There's 3 very different parts to this. And there's only a fiscal impact for the first part.
Which part are you concerned about?
The fact that all 3 of them are together. We don't have enough information about the special projects arts administration position.
So, I mean, is that something that, because I see the most important part of this as being the assistant city manager. You can always amend the other stuff out if that's something that would get your support. I mean, I don't know what the administration would feel about that. But the other part, I want to just respond to my colleague from Ward 6 to point out that, just as an example, and I think Mr. Malinoff's been trained, you said the ICMA. So what is it? What's the stand for again?
The International City County Management Association. Yeah. We're the largest organization of its kind in the world.
Yeah, and so the important point of that is that city council, city manager training is specifically to deal with, it's actually a different form of government than ours. It's one where it's only the council and city manager, there's no mayor. So I think I'm saying that because he's trained to provide that support to a council, right? And that's, I think, going towards your point of offering assistance. That's already built into, I think, his training, and I think we've learned through his mentality. And so I think that's.
I believe the last assistant to or assistant of the city manager was also certified, if I'm not mistaken.
Alderman Gay, only Alderman Savage has the floor. I'm sorry.
Didn't know we were following Robert's rules.
Don't mumble.
Finished my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Alderwoman Dickinson.
All right, so I wanted to clarify that the fiscal impact note does cover the special projects arts administrator. It's currently a contractual position. It's being converted to an exempt position. And we had already included it in the budget under the exempt position. It doesn't change anything with the benefits because with the issue that we had with the Maryland State Retirement Agency, we had to put that position under the pension already. So there's no impact on benefits. There's a little bit of change on the salary, contractual to exempt, but that was accounted for in the budget. So we anticipated this change when we set up the budget.
Alderman Arnett.
As much as I would like to get to the library before it closes, I have to agree that I have some sympathy for the points that Alderwoman O'Neill has made. I'm not sure that now is the time to amend out everything except for the central point, which is creating this position for the assistant city manager. I have tended to treat all of the changes in the functions of the staff in the mayor's office as the purview of the mayor's office, and I, as an older person, tend not to dabble with that too much. I also like our new management in the mayor's office, so I'm trusting that. I guess Kate is, oh, there you are. And the one that perplexes me a little bit is why we're throwing in this part-time and full-time changes in the code, and I assume that's just, we're just piling on to this piece of legislation because it's available, but perhaps the HR director could speak to it for us.
Good evening, Tricia Hopkins, Human Resources Manager. The reason we have all three parts in this ordinance is because it all addresses the exempt service. As you heard sort of by the wayside that we went through an audit with the Maryland State Retirement System, we have obligations under that settlement agreement to make language changes in our employment agreement section of the code, which is in the exempt service, which is therefore also in this ordinance tonight. It's important to us that we show an absolute, beyond good faith effort to make those changes in order to be compliant with the outcome of that audit and that settlement agreement. So that's why that language is in there. It's specific language to address 100% grant-funded positions as being exempt from conversion to civil or exempt service for certain positions. And when we reviewed the language in the employment agreement, we thought we need to do just a little bit more cleanup around the definition for temporary employees so that, again, respectfully, we are addressing the concerns of the cost of conversion of future positions that may be under employment agreements and that would ultimately be eligible for conversion under the language of the employment agreement section of the exempt service. So we want very much to do that and to clean that up and complete that as part of it. As Director Dickinson has already said, we've also over time been converting positions from the employment agreement, or formerly known as contractual employment, into civil or exempt service over time. The incumbent in the position in the mayor's office was one of the few, was the only person who really hadn't gone through that conversion from previous employment agreements. So again, we're trying to be consistent, we're trying to be fair-minded, and trying to make sure that in the process of our efforts during the budget process that we're following through in the legislative format, like as you have before you tonight.
I get yelled at, what?
Thank you. I'm going to speak next, if you don't mind. When I came to the city council some 15, 16 years ago. Mr. Malinoff was our city administrator because we didn't have a city manager at all. The departments were all led by the mayor. And I, along with several of my colleagues, sponsored the legislation that would change our form of government. It's a quasi-combination form of government because we were trying to design something unique to us because we have unique needs. And so we created the city manager position with the full intent of creating an office for the city manager. Our city manager manages all the departments except one, and that's the law department, which falls under the purview of the mayor. Our city manager oversees the police department, the fire department, the Office of Emergency Preparedness, the HR department, finance department, the planning department, the transportation department, and the public works department. And IT. All of those departments answer, the directors of those departments answer to the city manager. The one person in that office, the city manager. And I feel a little responsible that we haven't been able to develop that department over the last, 10 years? We still have one person in that capacity. In the police department, there is a major. So if the chief isn't available, he's got a backup. In the fire department, if the chief isn't available, he's got a backup. In OEM, if the director isn't available, he's got a backup. In public works, if he's not available, he has a few backups because they all lead different areas of that department. Everybody else in the city has a backup. If our city manager has to be out, or wants to be out, or needs to be out, there is no backup. The last position that we created was an assistant to the city manager. An assistant to the city manager. The administration, the current administration, found a person for the position, but they kind of combined two positions. So the salary was very high, beyond what one would pay for an assistant to, and that person was dubbed assistant city manager, but without our endorsement. Our endorsement was for an assistant to, because that was a step we were trying to take in order to give the city manager's office all the support it needs. There's no secretarial support. There's no support. The city attorney has 4 attorneys? 4 attorneys. The city manager has 0. So I think we're being, I hate to use the word irresponsible, but we are. Because if we're looking at only what it's going to cost, I think we need to consider the entire picture. The city manager runs all of our departments. I'm going to say that again and again, because he does. They are all his responsibility. And for us to sit here and debate whether he should have an assistant, whether we should have an assistant to help run this city, I think is misplaced. We haven't done it in the past, but we should have. We're in a position to do it now. I think, and Ms. Dickinson, correct me if I'm wrong, The funding for this position is in part already in existence because we have a vacancy. So for this first year, or for whenever we're able to fill it, it's not going to even cost us that total amount. Am I wrong in that?
No, that is correct. And you see that there is, we already have 140 in the budget for the position as it was graded originally, 140,000. This could be 170. When we calculate the 170, it's middle of the range and plus the benefits. So if we fill it middle of the range, 170, so there's a $30,000 extra cost this year. However, it's been vacant for a long time. That turnover savings from having it vacant for so long will likely be enough to cover that extra cost. Now, I haven't calculated it out to be sure, but there's going to be an extensive amount of turnover in that budget.
Thank you.
So it will not cost, it is not likely going to cost us extra this year against the budget. However, when we set the budget for next year, we will have to budget it at a higher level.
We are having a difficult time finding people to fill positions in the city. And I contend finding an assistant city manager is not going to be an easy task either. The ICMA certification is vital because that ups the professionalism of the people in those positions. Mr. Malinoff has been in several other community states even, where he's had this role and knows exactly what is involved. We had ICMA here to evaluate the police department. I guess that was probably 10 or 12 years ago. Their level of knowledge and just back to professionalism is, you can't match it. So I implore you to support this position, to give, and whether Mr. Malinoff is in that seat or whomever is in that seat as city manager, we do our job and give our staff, and you're always hearing me say, give the staff the tools that they need. Well, give the city the tool that we need as a city and create this position of a city manager and fund it in this ordinance. Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of adopting O32 on second reader, please say aye.
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 Oh.
Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Abstentions? All right, all in favor, or I'll entertain a motion of adopting O32 on third reader.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving O32? I'm sorry.
It's a roll
That's
call,
your
yeah.
job.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
No.
Alderwoman O'Neill. No. Alderman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Guilty, yes. I was guilt tripped.
That was a yes. Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett. Yes, that ordinance passed.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, would you present the next item on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The next item is the resolution on second reader, R3222, Chesapeake Bay Trust, Anne Arundel County and City of Annapolis Watershed Restoration Grant Program Permit Fees Waiver.
So moved.
Okay, been moved and properly second. Discussion? Alderman Savage?
If people have any questions, we did get into this quite a bit in environmental matters. So just summarizing real quick, this is grant money that we give. It's our money that we give. The Chesapeake Bay Trust administers it and gives the grant money out to residents. And so this essentially would waive permit fees for their projects that we fund. Because essentially we're giving them money and then having them pay us back with, and that's what we're kind of trying to avoid with this. It doesn't have a very high, I think the fiscal impact really is moot because it all is going to come out of the watershed fund anyway. So one way or another, it just kind of takes money out of the general fund and then has it come out of the restoration fund.
Thank you. Alderman Schnellmeyer.
Makes projects easier. Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor,
It's a roll call. Second reader resolution.
oh, okay, second reader. So all in favor of adopting R 3222 on second reader, please say aye.
Aye.
No, it's a roll call. Forget
okay.
that. It's a roll call.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Let's start right this time. Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Okay, that resolution passes.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, 'cause it's a
Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
The agenda is complete, Madam Mayor.
Yay. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Alderman, who are you, Gay?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Just quickly, because this is something that we often do, which is not the rules. And it says clearly here in the book, as it relates to debate, which we do on a motion, this is specifically related to debate on a motion. Each person is allowed 2 opportunities to debate a motion on the floor. But if someone who has not spoke yet wants to speak, they should go first. And secondly, it's never appropriate.
Alderman, are you the one asking to implement this?
No, because I know the city manager he thinks we debate a lot, but I'm just.
Okay.
It also says here, neither can one member stop the debate by yelling out question or it's time to take a vote, which people do all the time. That's not the appropriate way to end a debate. You should, only the motion to limit debate can limit debate, and the debate can be closed only by the motion of previous question or closed debate. So just for clarity, we have been operating appropriately, and it's specifically within our rights and the rules of Robert Order to debate a motion. I had to look it up because I know there's always sometimes we over debate or whatever. It's there.
Okay, thank you. So we're all good now. Alderman Shannon.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, all in favor of adjourning? There being no other business on the agenda, I would enter, it's all done. It's, okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Ellie, where is Manhattan?